What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of On the Bucket. Joined today by David Witherspoon, who really needs no introduction. David Witherspoon from Honeywell. David, you've wore a lot of hats at this point, man. What's the hat that you're wearing these days, and what's your role at Honeywell?
That's an excellent question, Rob. How are you, by the way? Hope you're doing well.
I'm excellent, thank you.
Very good. You're correct. I have worn many hats, and within my current role and the way I've always looked at what I do, it's wearing every hat. We take care of every customer. The official title, if you want to call it that, is Director of Global Offering Management, and I am the portfolio leader for all things Honeywell when it comes to the control system solutions and our embedded OEM offerings.
Done. Yeah, that's global means you do a lot of traveling, so maybe later we can talk about some of your more favorite places. And the reason I wanted to have you on is the first official guest is you are one of those people to me that I put in the category of gets it. You get it, right? And so you kind of make sense of what your role is, what the role of a supplier in Honeywell is. You understand distribution a lot better than some. And so you're a guy that first off, I knew if I said, "Hey, man, you want to do a podcast?" You're like, "Heck yeah, let's do it!" Right? So that was part of it. But past that, I just think that it's interesting where you find yourself, how much value you bring to us, and the point of this podcast is letting everyone understand a little bit more on the personal side. We don't get too deep. This ain't Dr. Phil, right? But letting us understand a little bit into how you grew up, maybe what was some fun stories that you had, and different things that people may not know about you, and then work it into kind of how you got into the industry. So where'd you grow up? Where were you officially born?
Well, so first off, I'm upset that this is not going to be a Dr. Phil therapy session and I get crying. But there's no couch in my home office here, so
Yeah.
I'd be laying on the floor. Where did I grow up? And this is one of those fun ones that people don't know about me. I actually am adopted. So I
Wow.
joke that I was born in a cabbage patch, and my father decided that he needed some cabbage and came and got me out of the field. My birth certificate technically says Greensboro, North Carolina, but that's the way they handle adoptions. It is where were you adopted from, and that's the city you were born in. There actually are two driver's license, birth certificate kind of things there, and I have to send to Raleigh for my birth certificate so they don't hand me the wrong book and tell me who my paternal, actually biological parents are, and that will tell
Wow.
me where.
Dang. So hey, that's worth the price of admission right out of the gate, man. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. So that's really cool. Grew up in Greensboro, and what was life growing up? It's I don't know much about that area. Is it country? Is it a little more city? Is it what is it?
So I actually live in the house that I grew up in. Bought it from my parents.
Cool.
Lots of land. We grew up, some of my best friends, we grew up in the neighborhood, riding horses, dirt bikes. We'd go out in the woods, and how the city folks say, don't let the lights beat you home. For us, it was, hey, I'm over at so and so's house. Okay, just come on home when you get there. We didn't have to worry about things. You played in the creek, you played outside, and we had three or four TV channels, and Mr. Rogers was on PBS. So
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock, we made certain that we saw that. But other than that, we were playing, reading, and whatever else. And that was our childhood. I did have a little different childhood as well. My father and uncle started a residential wholesale HVAC business in 1960. So my joke is, and it's pretty much accurate, the day my father adopted me, I was at the office. So I've been in this
Nice.
industry since I was 6 weeks old. So 53 years later, I'm too stupid to get out of it.
That's great. So we're similar in how we grew up a little bit. For me, it was go-karts and three-wheelers. I was in Rockdale County until mid elementary school, moved up in suburbs of Atlanta, but the whole family was sort of lined up, like the aunts and uncles and all that was all kind of in the line there. So I had the world's longest backyard because I could run through everybody's backyard up to grandmother and pop's house and try to beat pop on the tractor when he was mowing the fields and my little 50cc dirt bike. And so that's cool, man. It's I think every kid wish that they could grow up that way. I feel like I had a great upbringing in that capacity.
It's interesting to watch my children who have the same, actually when we bought this house, my parents had built a place back. Um, and so I was traveling all the time as a wholesale, as a systems distributor. So when the kids were young, Lisa needed help and they were there to help get them to school or activities. They have the barn to go play in, all the fields. It's a very different environment for a lot of their friends who, to your point, moved away from their parents. They're living thousands of miles away in some cases and have no backup. Have their friends are become their network per se to help, and
Right.
it's not the same. It is different, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely a great way to put it. Different, not the same. Not better, not worse, just different, but not the same. So then past that, you grow up, your middle school, high school days, were you a sports guy? Were you an academic? All the above, none of the above? Where did you kind of land there?
You know, I did a bunch of stuff during the summer. Well, not just during the summers. Every day we were out of school, I was at the office. And so pulling sheet metal, grabbing bags of flex, or at that time boxes of flex. Now they do bags. Moving units, be it packaged RTU gas packs, split systems. Those were the days of the 4 and 6 SEER things. Now you have to have minimum of 16. So we've come a long way, right? And they've gotten heavier. So, that was actually kind of my gym when I would in middle school. Well, actually before that, I actually grew up playing the piano, and I took 12 years of piano lessons. Got into band in middle school, picked up the clarinet, picked up the bass clarinet, picked up oboe, bassoon, other things, but those are kind of difficult to do marching band in. So started doing bass drum, did cymbals, stuff like that with marching
Dang.
band, did xylophone. I did play football early on. In about fourth grade, ended that because I broke my collarbone twice in the same week. We had a substitute teacher and we were playing, and I was basically the safety, the last guy before Monty got a touchdown, and I dove after him and landed on a manhole, and boop, out it comes.
Manhole.
Yep, right in the middle of the field. It was right there. And my dad came and got me, took me to the hospital. They set it back. They stitched me up. Next day, I'm feeling better. I go to football practice right then there too. So that kind of, I was told I couldn't play football anymore.
Yeah.
And so that ended that. Got into rugby in college. Nothing like a good rough sport. A little bit.
Yeah.
Did that. Academic, yes. Was in what we had started in the county school system called a science and technology magnet school. And buddies and I were the first group in that. Had a blast. We were the weirdos. We were at school at 7 a.m. doing stuff, chemistry, physics, calculus, just everything we used to do. Um, so I kind of played that entire gamut of things, and my strengths there were math. My strengths there were science. Even today, I can write a heck of a business letter, but it
Yeah.
takes me longer than my wife, she can creative write like crazy. So
Yeah. It's so wild, all the different skill sets that are out there, right? And what you gravitate to. And it's always funny. I always talk to anyone, friends, family, people that work for me, people I work with, strengths, weaknesses, and liabilities, right? And so play to your strengths. That's what's got you where you are. It's probably what's going to take you where you want to go. Liabilities, it's like Shaquille O'Neal, like he had a liability. Dude, you can't shoot free throws. You definitely can't shoot 3-pointers, right? So if you can at least get that liability to a weakness level, right, where it's not hack a Shaq and it's not trying to win games by getting Shaq to the free throw line, right? It makes up, but I think some people try to take their weaknesses and make them strengths, right? And so it's so neat just to hear what you just said. It's like here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I'm kind of good at. But then somebody else over here is maybe something that I'm kind of good at. They're really good at. And it's a good blend. That's what makes, a great team, right? Um, and too often people like to get people into a room that think and act like they do. I do the opposite. I want to get the people in there that think differently from me because you get a more well-rounded thing.
You get the diverse input, right? And that's,
Right.
if everybody agrees with you, you're going to have a problem down the road.
100%. Well said. Well said. So it's funny. I said, what were your hobbies and stuff? And you immediately talked about work and different things that you were doing, right? And so clearly it's all starting to make sense now, right? This is why you thrive in this industry because you've been doing it since an early age, right? So, but at some point, so are you able to say the name of the distributor that you worked at? Is that
Oh yeah,
something that you share?
David Witherspoon supply.
Okay.
So Mark Yandel, my uncle, and my father, started out of Charlotte and grew it to Greensboro, grew it to Hickory, grew it to Spartanburg, South Carolina. Over the years, then started adding Raleigh, Goldsboro. They've expanded further, Greenville, Charleston area, Columbia, Charleston. So it's been fun to watch externally. I actually left March 26th of 96. And there are reasons I remember that date I won't go into, but I very distinctly remember that date and ended up doing some hiking, doing a little bit of soul searching, going from that point and moving to the next realm, which was Hoffman and Hoffman, where I started in the parts department there. And I'll never forget Rusty Hoffman telling me, I want to hire you because you're the person that I know can do this job for the price I'm willing to pay. And we'll see about next steps and get you a future plan.
Yeah.
And in about 2 years, that turned into me starting the systems distribution business for Honeywell at Hoffman. That was a Honeywell distributor.
Is Hoffman and Hoffman the same as Hoffman Building Technologies, or is that different?
It is. Hoffman Hoffman is the parent umbrella. Hoffman
Okay.
Building Technologies started out as the Allerton Controls business and still is a very, very good partner with our Allerton business. But that business grew, and they do mechanical, they do service work, controls. I'll never forget the first real venture of that, I think, was Mr. Good Tower. So Evapco Cooling Towers had a service called Mr. Good Tower, and they started trying to expand that to Hoffman Building Technologies as it's known today.
That's neat. That's really cool. Sometimes when things get bigger, it's funny too. Like you think about some of the companies that were doing something totally different when they were founded, and then now they're in our industry doing exactly what we do. So it's always wild to figure out, how those things happen, those things come to fruition. Who was your mentor or mentors? Who taught you how to be who you are? Who taught you the business?
That's a really, really interesting thing. I have been so fortunate to have many mentors in many different parts of my life in different stages, right? Obviously, my father initially and still today. I mean, he just turned 85 4 days ago and still challenges me on things in the proper manner, from business to, hey, I don't agree with your decision there kind of stuff. I mean, 53 years old, he's 85, he's still my dad, right?
Right.
But he taught me a lot of the basis of customer service, customer care, how to take apart a transformer. Maybe the person's coming in and has we'll just give you a Honeywell part number, an AT140
Hmm.
transformer, the 40 V8 transformer, and you need a replacement to get this unit up and running. Well, maybe I don't have that exact part number on the shelf. What Dad taught me was, forget about the part number. Look at the core characteristics of how it mounts, what voltage incoming, what the amperage is, what the outgoing is, and how do you wire this? Because if they need it and you've got a part that can make it work, that works. That gets them moving forward and gets them off the project.
Yeah.
So things like that. He taught me how to change compressors. He taught me how to, uh, you know, charge superheat, so on and so forth. Things like that. Taught me also how to keep my head level. I'll give a good example of that. As I got out of college and moving into other roles, I'd still end up scrubbing the toilets, taking out the trash, simple things like that. And I used to get so upset with him, going, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
I want to do what you're doing. And his statement still sticks with me today. He said, you're not going to be given this. You're going to earn your stripes.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is if when you are in charge, you need somebody to go scrub a toilet and they literally don't know how to do that, you can show them how to do it.
Yeah.
You're not just put in here. So
Right.
everybody in this place, and this was when I was still at David Witherspoon, will know that you've earned it. It wasn't given to you. And they'll have
Hmm.
respect for your ability to run the place because you were taught how to do so, not just said, oh, here you go. I use another example, Mike Keller,
Just retired, right? Didn't he?
just retired. Well, a
Yeah.
year ago,
Yeah.
traveling all over the place, enjoying the grandbaby, so on and so forth. He's doing everything now that he couldn't do when he was focused on the work, which is
Right.
what I think it's a fault of several of us. We preach work-life balance to our teams, but then we forget about it for ourselves. We end up working quite a bit, and our families are thankfully very gracious in that and giving us that ability to do so.
Yeah.
Mike Keller, Sheila Lenz, Mike Garceau, people, Mark Peacock, Ed Merwin, the list goes, it's arm's lengths long. Again,
Yeah.
back to when I needed some help, when I needed a mentor, the right person showed up.
Right.
Bob Anderson, like I said, it's all stages and varying degrees or varying roles and titles that these people have had and experiences that helped shape me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I worked for my father for a little while, actually two different times. 100%. Like it was like, you know, three times as hard on me as the next people. It's like if this person did the exact same thing wrong that I did, maybe they didn't even get a punish. It was me. I was an example, right? And it was like you, kind of like you. I can remember being like, "What in the heck? Like, why am I doing this?" Right? But then when you start to see that you get a little bit of respect, he kind of gave the old man some props for thinking big picture to say that you don't want to give off the impression that this is just given and this has got to be earned and it's it is good to go and scrub a toilet here and there, and it also not just sets the example like, hey, I scrub the toilet, but you also can go, it's okay to ask someone to scrub the toilet if it needs to get done, right? We've all been there, we've all done that, and so it is something, right? Not that I'm going to make a habit of that, guys. Don't worry.
I was just saying, everybody just was like, oh
Yeah.
crap, here it comes, new assignments.
But that's neat. But you've said some great names. I think all but one of those people that I knew as far as mentors. Keller was great. I knew Rob Anderson for just a little while. It's good to have people that you can go and confide in to get a perspective sometimes, right? And that's just kind of what you need. Sometimes you just gotta bounce what you're thinking off of somebody to get a level set and a perspective that's similar. And if someone can give you or get something in perspective a little bit different from what you got now, it's usually almost always makes you better.
And you always want to take it and analyze it and understand it, right? You want to make certain you're listening, and that's a Kellerism. When I came into Honeywell 20 years ago, straight from distribution business, I would take over the conversation completely, and I still work on that. But the Kellerism is 2 ears, one mouth. God gave you 2 ears. Listen twice as much as you talk. And so I still laugh at that one because between that and ripping my phone out of my hand when we were driving down the road, going, I want to get there safely. No, I got to respond to the customer. No, they'll be there. I
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah. That's funny. My stepdad didn't quite give me the same message so eloquently. He said, if you'll keep your eyes and your ears open and your mouth shut, you might learn something. That was how I had to learn that lesson, right? So that's really cool. When I did this with Eric Stromquist, he talked to me about how he blew up a hospital or something on day one of his industry. Not really, but
You
you might
talking
have
about
to
that
go
big
watch the
bullet that
first
he had to figure out? Yeah, with the
the
phone call.
yeah, which is pretty funny. I mean, we almost had to take a cut because the way he knows how to get me laughing, and he was doing it on purpose. I know he was trying to get me to laugh to the point where I was going to start to cry. But yeah, that was funny. But you have any good funny like just learning the industry and just something that stuck out that's just wild?
You know, there's been good and bad. I'll show you my arm. So you'll see a Scar
Yeah.
here. You'll see a scar here. That's the
Those
joys
from
of sheet
Keller? Those from
metal.
Keller?
No, those weren't from Keller. That was the thrashings on the back with the bullet, right? Like we're kidding. um, that's growing up. That's learning the business. That's learning how to unload a truck by yourself. And you've got a 22-foot straight truck that's box truck that's stacked from back to front, and it's got thousands of steel sheets on it. It's got gas packs and everything. And hey, guess what? That's my job. Crap.
Yeah.
But funny, I think the funniest one I've ever done is this little thing right here called a wedding ring.
Yeah.
As a distributor, I was trying to help convert and figure out what the contractor needed. And we went to a glass plant down east towards actually east of Laurinburg, North Carolina. And there was a old Honeywell R7044 panel in this thing. Now, if you've never seen one of those, it's one of the original DDC panels that's, this freaking big. You had to burn the chips. It literally has 3 comm off of it and 3 little lights that blink. Your iPhone 2 has more power than that thing ever had. But they frickin' run forever. And the plant decided to make an update. So we went down and figured out, okay, what have we got tied into this thing? And I made the mistake of literally, they had used the panel as a conduit, I guess you want to say, for other wiring. And I pushed it out of the way so I could see the terminal connections here. And there was a skint wire that was
Ooh.
touching this and literally grounded to the electrical panel.
Wow.
And so it burnt my finger and so on and so forth. I learned very quickly. And I told my girlfriend, my wife, right? I call her my girlfriend. Told her if I ever come home without my wedding ring on, tell me to reach in my left pocket and put it back on. And it's not because I've been doing anything I shouldn't be doing. It's
Yeah.
because I'm digging an electrical panel and learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I know that about you. You call your wife your girlfriend. Why you do that?
Because I'm so busy with so many things, if I do not make she and my girls the priority in my life, and if I stop dating her, I'm in
Right.
trouble. So while she's been my wife for 26 years, she's been my girlfriend for 28 and a half years, and she will continue
Yeah.
to be my girlfriend because I make an effort to make certain that I always tell her, I love you, thank you for the support, because, there's a lot of things in this life that we're thankful for. We talked about mentors a moment ago. The support infrastructure of your family or your friends as well, is a huge piece. And so I literally call her my girlfriend for
I
a
love
long.
that. I love that. We've talked about that before. I met the love of my life at 17, still happily married and all's going well. And, you never stop dating. That's got to be some, what do they call advice for a long-term marriage is keep dating, right?
You have to, don't go to bed angry. Look, it's going to happen over 28, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Have conversations. The one thing our kids will tell you, they've never seen us scream at each other. We literally sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, this really bothered me. I don't like the way this played out. Now, whether you meant it the way I interpreted it or not, let's understand that. And that's much more productive than just screaming at each other, slamming doors. Doesn't work.
Yeah. 100%. Speaking of wives, I wanted to transition a little bit. What's it like to be a good boss? I mean, because we're talking about wives. I mean, leader. What's it like to
He
be
does a great
what's
job of me, right?
leader? That's what I meant. Leader. Tell us, the I know some people that have worked for you, worked with you, and all say good things. So what's important? What are some things that are important to you about uh, that you think make a good leader?
Yeah, have you ever seen the old cartoon where they've got the hieroglyphics and they've got all the team carrying the big king's chair on their shoulders, and the
I haven't
manager
seen
is
that.
sitting in the chair, but the leader's out front helping carry the chair?
Yeah.
That's what we forget. just because you're the leader, you're still part of that team, and it doesn't mean you get out of doing work. You've got to
Right.
be there in the trenches with your team every step of the way. Early on, I think one of the things that I was trying to be a leader, but was becoming a manager, trying to respond to every email, even if I was in CC, trying to show, hey, let's go do this, show or prove why I've been offered this opportunity in that role. As you get more seasoned or the ability to start learning lessons along the way, you start learning to trust your team. You're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You're human. We all do it. As a leader, the answer is not to scream and yell. The answer is to say, okay, we messed up. Thank you for coming to me with it.
Hmm.
What happened? What did we learn? What do we not do the next time? Great. Now let's go solve the problem.
Right.
And taking an approach like that, helping your team, I have a very low what's called EQ, and my kids will tell you that as well. I'm kind of direct at times instead of empathetic. I have a hard time because I just do. Even if
Hmm.
it's going to beat me to death, I just go do. I have a hard time sometimes understanding why somebody can't do something or won't, right?
Right.
And so for me as a leader, that's always a work in progress for me to make certain that I'm listening. Back to the Kellerism, two ears, one mouth, right? And sometimes it's just listening.
Yeah.
We laugh about, especially large companies. Even Stromquist has processes. You have to do certain things. I can promise you a Honeywell, a Johnson, a Siemens, name a large multi-billion dollar company. You have 10x the processes that we have to follow with personnel, with all these stuff, right? But no matter where you are in that level or in that role of your life, you end up in this type of role having to listen sometimes. And
Hmm.
you're not even thinking about business decision. One of the things I've always told my teams, you get 10 minutes a month to complain. Use them wisely. But you have
Nice.
to tell me right up front, hey, I'm calling just to complain, because that tells me to turn off problem solving and just
Yeah.
be the psychotherapist at the moment, right?
Yeah.
What I've also asked is, hey, after your 10 minutes are up, you can still come to me with a problem. I want you to. I encourage you to, but come with some solutions. If you don't
Yeah.
know the answer, say, hey, I'm toying with these things in my head, and I'll take you through a pros and cons. What if? Well, I gotcha, but historically, here's how that's failed. How would we do it different so it would work, right?
Right.
That's some of the challenges that we have to do as leaders, not managers, is to stop doing sometimes, let our teams do, make sure they feel empowered to do it, be the psychotherapist when they need the therapy, because there is no green pasture for every job. Even retirement, I'm hearing, doesn't have a green pasture every day. So you need that person to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's. And then make certain that
Yeah.
you communicate the vision on a strategy of where we're going and how we're going to get there, right? The
Yep.
motivation part is, hey, we're going to take this hill, and here's why. Here's what it's going to
Yeah.
do for us and our customers as we move forward.
Yeah. That's well said. I don't know. I don't know if you do personality types. I love personality types and Myers-Briggs and all that stuff. It helps me make sense of people in the world and how people see things differently than I do. And it's been great. But have you ever had a Myers-Briggs profile? I suspect you're an ENTZ or ENTJ. We use golden personality here, which is the Z.
No, I'm an
ENTJ.
introvert. I'm a big introvert, not an
Yeah,
extrovert.
right. Yeah, yeah. Sure. I think you need to retest. But if you are indeed an NT like I am, I'm an ENTJ. Your big picture, right? See big picture. Sometimes details are not what get you going. But NTs typically listen to solve, right? So like someone's telling you about something, you're listening, you're taking it. Oh, clearly you want me to give you my input and solve. And typically that's not the case. That's typically not what someone wants to do. Someone wants to be heard, right? let me hear you. Yep. Is this what you're saying? Is this the concern? Yes. Okay. How do you think that we should approach this? And it's that whole thing. I've heard you do that with me and others. So whether you're doing it on purpose or it's just a natural thing, it's pretty neat, man. But yeah, just make people feel heard. I wish I would have learned that a long time ago, been taught that a long time ago.
Yeah, to answer your question, it's something I work on every day because I want to solve the problem.
Hmm.
But people don't learn if you don't help by asking the right questions.
Right.
And it's something so just, I know every day. I've done it every day. I've done it 100 times before. Here's the answer. But you have to think about how people learn. And do they learn by you just telling them and showing them, or do you physically get them engaged in it and go hands on and build it, right? Most people want you to just tell them how to solve it and move on, but the problem becomes they're going to be back at you in 2 weeks to ask the same flipping question. And when that happens, I start to get a little upset and irritated because they didn't learn it. So I have tried to take a different approach on that and am still working on it.
Yep. No, we call it leaving people leaving you their monkeys. And we borrowed that from a book we all read, Traction. But it's like, hey, don't leave your monkey with me. Go take that thing back, right? It's like, and the one we've all used probably is you can give a man a fish or you can teach a man to fish, right? And you want to teach somebody how to fish is always good. So
Yeah, and it
one
goes
thing
into, have you ever read the Kipling poem If?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Okay. So basically it's about a lot of things, but the bottom line of it is it's about how to be your own person. Take responsibility, take ownership. And accept when you do something wrong. Don't hide from it and evolve and grow your business, grow yourself. That's what it's about. If you can do these things, I'd encourage you to read it. It's actually, like I said, it's a pretty profound, short little poem. It's probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 paragraphs long or stanzas, but it's impactful to that point to help you realize, okay, here's how I become that person. Now, what do I need to do to help this next person develop, or how do I mentor them into that?
Yeah. And so it's called If by Kipling.
Kipling, yeah, just type Kipling poem. That's his most famous one. It's
That'll
called
get it.
If.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. I'll report back. Now I know a sticking point for you is you absolutely hate data. You don't trust data. You don't ever look at data, right? Data, you just is like you hate it, right? So let's talk about that for a little bit. Why do you hate data so much? Or do I have it backwards? Do you love data?
You
Which one is
know,
it?
there's both sides of that coin.
Come on.
I'll be the good Presbyterian at the moment and tell you there's always a pro and a con. There's all
I'm gonna stop right there. In case you're not following, this dude loves data. Okay, go on, but he loves data, and I don't mind it because you use it in a profound way that usually simplifies things. Sometimes data can complicate things, but anyway, if you're not following at home,
Well,
now
I
you're
was
level
good. I
set.
was I was actually going to use last week's meeting and data, right?
Yeah,
If it's not
yeah,
presented in the right manner, it can instantly change the entire course of a meeting. It can
right.
instantly change the entire course of a project. So you've
Hmm.
got to understand the data in a very good manner. It's not just the ones and zeros. You don't want to apply emotion. That's fact. What's happening? As long as that data is source correct and
Inaccurate.
inaccurate, if you look at 6 different ways and they all say this is a dollar, that's a dollar, that's a dollar, that's a dollar, it's when this says a dollar and that says a million,
Hmm.
or when this says a million and that says 250.
Right.
That's where I have a problem with data. Now, what I love about the data, what I love about slicing and dicing, the analytics, right? And we can talk about this actually, you know, I did it this weekend. Some of the AI features are helping take that to even next levels, right? I'm sure there's some Excel gurus listening to this, and I'm not an Excel guru. I can I can do what I need to in Excel. I personally like Tableau much better because it allows me to give visualizations in ways that, and then start filtering right then and there versus having to go back in Excel and add a pivot table and do certain things and dot, dot, dot. But I can take what people would think is meaningless data and just the way my brain is wired with a lot of, we'll call it bubble logic. I
Hmm.
can take things and all of a sudden just connect them and it's like, wait a second, is that the reason this is not happening? Or what's driving this? Oh, what about these inputs, right?
Yeah.
And certain tools like Tableau and other things have always allowed me to be able to take that and just play with it. Now the next piece is AI, and Chat GPT, Copilot, Gemini. You look at some of these AI pieces and you look at these large language models, the generative type AI models, they take data that you provide them and can give you new ways to look at them based upon the questions that you ask, right? I mean, a simple example, when you filter in an Excel, you literally have to go find every part number you want to sort by and click it individually. Whereas if I attach Copilot to it, I literally can type, hey, filter on this list of materials or items and drop that sucker in there. And in 30 seconds, you've got a complete filtered list of everything you were looking for, right? And it's a lot of time savings pieces there. The next pieces I'm really starting to look forward to are the agentic pieces that are the next level of AI that can make decisions based upon historical pieces and start learning. I don't ever want to get to iRobot or anything like that where they take over,
Right.
right? But those
Me
two
either.
right there are helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. I just know you have a fascination for it and you have a niche for breaking it down in a great way. Can we, were you gonna say something else?
No, 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 go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. The can we transition a little bit to the industry? I don't want to get too deep dive and all that kind of stuff, but just our industry when you think about it, and as long as you've been in it, and I'm sure you've seen so many transitions, right? I mean, what's the state of our industry? What do we need to do? I guess stop, start, continue, if you will. In our industry that we're around for another generation, two, three, four, five.
And that's actually a really interesting question because of I enjoy the generic piece of it because I could take it to distribution. I could take it to an OEM. I could take it to our integrators, right? I could take it to the end users' outcomes and what are they looking for. So let's just hit a couple of those. AI we just mentioned is going to change the industry. That's the next real big piece. We have a huge labor shortage, and AI is not going to solve that piece of I need installers, I need trained people that can do these types of things.
Right.
But how can it help us create learning curves and learning paths for the tech ones that want to be tech twos and tech threes and directors of engineering and so on and so forth, right? You look at a distribution model and you look at disruptors like Amazon and others, eBay and dot, 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 right? If you did not add value as you do, as Eric David started and
Hmm.
you and others have continued to, your entire team as an example does a really good job of adding value. You're not just selling part number 1, 2, 3 and it's a transaction based. People come to you for that. That's where Amazon does really well is the transaction base,
Right.
but they don't necessarily add the, hey, tell you what, you know, I've never put one of these in. Let's go together to that job site and do it. And you standing right there with your customer doing that, or maybe they're having a challenge and one of your salespeople hop in the car, one of your tech people hop in the car or on the phone. It's those personal touches that differentiate your journey and what's going to continue. To be here in the next generation, you have to continue to add on top of that value piece, right?
Right.
When I look at building automation and I look at those AI models, I think people are afraid they're going to lose their jobs. And when I've talked about the agentic and the generative AI models, right, using large language or even starting to learn and do, they won't replace you,
Yeah.
but they will help you think differently or help you approach your job in a much more efficient way to do that. And from an OM standpoint, we need to make certain that we are embracing those technologies as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Last point, from our integrator levels, it's actually a really interesting shift. I bet you still sell a ton of pneumatic controls.
Yeah, we do. Original open protocol.
That's exactly right. People laugh, and this is something I used to talk to engineers about training when I was doing training sessions. The only true open source is pneumatics because it's compressed air. All you got to know is, hey, Johnson does it this way, Honeywell does it this way, Barber Coleman and Robert Shaw does it this way. Match up your signal, you're in business, right? Is it reverse direct acting? Go. You didn't have to understand computers. You didn't have to understand a lawn snivet and how to map it through a Niagara platform for integration to a backnet pick statement and ... right?
Right.
You didn't have to decipher the Modbus registers to make it work.
Right.
But pneumatics are still prevalent in a whole lot of things. We have a whole generation that's starting to retire that felt comfortable with pneumatics. They knew how to do things and felt almost pressed to get into digital controls.
Yeah.
And now you've got this next generation that grew up starting to play games and the whole gamification piece of it, right? And they're looking for jobs as computer programmers, and those jobs are like this. Whereas what we needs that computer programming skills, and we can teach the HVAC knowledge. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you got a pretty good input of how to solve one piece of the labor curve, right?
Right. Yeah.
For the SIs, you've got to get the next step for them is to add an IT resource on their employment roles. I know globally, I know a ton of our integrators, either third party contract or the minute an IT conversation comes about, they're shutting down because they're not comfortable having those
Right.
conversations. And because of where the industry as a whole is going, has been going, and is going to accelerate, you've got to look at your skill sets of your employees and say, what's next? And what's driving every bit of that is Rob walks into his house and says, Alexa, turn on the lights. And you want that experience from your home into the commercial building. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I see it. And granted, I see the AI piece playing many more roles down. I see us continuing to change electrification, other types of pillars like that that are driving sustainable goals, things like that are all pillars of our industry and what's driving.
Yeah. So I heard a couple things. I heard people first and foremost, right? People, right? We got to get continue to have people want to come into our industry. And then I heard a little bit about technology to your point. If I want to see what's going on in my house right now, I can pull up my Ring camera and see the outside of my house and what's going on. And if I want to warm up my car because it's a little cold in Atlanta today, then I can send a signal to start it up, right? And so we want that. And I see the trends. Everything's going to continue to go, but I see security, network security. We're getting asked about that more and more and more and more. Used to never get asked about it. And then still, it's funny. I mean, for the past decade, it's like, I want to do analytics. What do you want to analyze? I have no idea. But I know that I want to do analytics, right? But people still, they want that transparency into their data so they can understand the building. Sustainability is huge, right? I mean, we all think about our bodies and we got to take care of them, right? We don't want to have health problems and all the stuff that comes from not taking care of yourself. And so the planet and other things, we got to, make sure that we're taking care of that in the same capacity. So I think all that's good. But when we get back to people, well, maybe you agree or don't. For me, I really feel you might be hard pressed to try and find something our industry couldn't provide someone. So let's say that you go to a career fair at your local high school or your alma mater college, and tell you, like, here at Stromquist, we've got, if you want to work with your hands, we've got a panel shop and we build fuel trains and we do that type stuff, right? If you're like me and you're not too technical and you want to work in sales and do that, we've got that. If you are very technical and you want to design systems and you want to make an impact somewhere where you're really just designing and creating some cool stuff. I mean, engineers, we can bring you in, right? And then of course we've got all the other things in between, inside sales, customer service, accounting, all that. What are we missing? I mean, if you want to wear your name on the front of your shirt, you could do it. If you want to wear a polo and play golf on Fridays, not very often, but occasionally, or not very often, we can do that, right?
That's an interesting way to look at it. You could take it back to a couple core pieces of what you just said. Are you creatively mindset? Are you technically mindset? Are you a people person? Right? So you start looking at the three legs of the stool that support the business as a whole, and you start looking at the business functions, you start looking at the sales, you start looking at everything else, finance, whatever that goes into that. You're 100% correct. There's really nothing in this industry besides serving hamburgers, and you can do that on a customer appreciation day if you want.
Yeah.
If you want to have your turn as a McDonald's fry chef, you can do that too.
There you go.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's about your passion and what makes it exciting for you. To your exact point, how do you stay in this industry all these years? You and I both, right? And the simple answer is, yes, it's work, but I enjoy what I do. I enjoy
Right.
the people. I enjoy getting challenged. And trust me, I get challenged a lot, which is good. And I sometimes have to work on my listening ears versus my fixed mindset. I want a growth mindset. Maybe they're giving me some information that I haven't thought about or will add value to the business as a whole. But those are exactly the points that I really enjoy doing what we're doing. And to your exact deal, not everybody needs to go to college. Go to a trade school, get into the industry and start. You would be amazed at the hourly wages being offered by some of these trades, plumbing, heating, because there are not enough people to go around. And the
Yeah.
more skills you get and you gain, that number goes up. And it's amazing to look at. I laugh sometimes because being global, I'm 24. I literally do take time to turn my phone off and go to sleep, but I physically have to turn it off. And when I wake up, there's stuff from China, there's stuff from India, there's stuff from Europe coming in.
Wow.
And it's those types of roles. If you want an 8 to 5, an 8 to 8, and walk away, that sometimes is actually really nice. I will tell
Yeah.
you in a heartbeat. But it pays well if you know what you're doing and build and earn
Yeah.
your stripes.
Yep. 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 Absolutely. Well said. I want to finish on something kind of fun. I know you just touched on it. You're well traveled for, I think personally you guys do some vacations, some cool trips, and then clearly being global, you've seen some cool spaces. But before I ask that final question, who autographed that football? What's that? What's that behind you there?
Interesting question. That's a Joe Theismann signed Momentum event that actually Mark Schlotteroff and team put together, and I helped. I don't even remember what year, honestly.
We were
Probably
in
been
Palm
10.
Springs or Desert Palms or something like
We were
that.
Palm Desert. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. And he was our external guest speaker. Schlotteroff actually gave me that because I helped pull together the topics for the engagement sections, the technical, the sales sections. Got this help get the speakers lined up and stuff. So I was thankful to earn that one,
Yeah,
and
that's cool. I
it was
thought it might have
nice.
been Theismann, but I was like, I can't quite make out the thing. But I've got a funny Theismann story because I was there and played golf that day, and he comes walking out of the clubhouse. And I was, it's Theismann, but we're in Palm Springs, so it wouldn't be unheard of to see some celebrity, whatever. Well, then we're 7, 8, 10 holes in, whatever, and golf cart comes coming up the other way. It's probably a Marshall. Well, then it kind of comes into the fairway, and I'm like, okay, what the heck? And this big dude hops out of the golf cart, right in front of us, says, "Hey, I'm Joe Theismann." And I'm kind of like, no kidding. Like, who doesn't know who is Joe Theismann, right? And he goes, well, I went to hit a golf shot with you guys and whatever. So he did that. That was pretty cool. And I did a breakout session. I moderated something or presented on something. And then anyone that did that got invited to go meet him personally before one of the things. I can't remember if you were in that room with us or not, but um, So he just kind of held court for half an hour and was a very interesting guy, and I thought that was really neat. Um, and so then we go off um, to the general session, and he's the speaker. And at some point, he starts throwing footballs just randomly out into the crowd, right? And and here comes a football, Joe Theismann. So wow, I've got a Joe Theismann football. So man, I just told everybody like all these different times at the Honeywell thing that I see Joe Theismann. Very next weekend, I'm back in Atlanta. I go to the Atlanta Falcons versus Washington Redskins game. Game's over. I'm sure the Falcons got beat, walking through the massive crowds. And here comes Joe Theismann. And I don't know if he was there as a fan, if he was commentating. I know he did that for a little while. But I was like, hey, I just saw you, out in Palm Springs and opposite. And he's like, oh, yeah, great time, whatever. Like, boom, that was kind of cool, right? So saw him again right after that. Couldn't believe it. Fast forward a year or two later, I'm at another suppliers conference. Joe Theismann is the is the presenter. Joe Theismann randomly throws the football out into the crowd, throws it right to me. I've got two Joe Theismann footballs. I gave one to somebody that was a Theismann fan. Notre Dame, is that where he went? Notre Dame, or I can't remember.
You got me. I don't know.
I don't know for sure either too, but yeah, it was but I just thought that was just wild, right? And so I mean if the story continues, like if I see him at the airport or something, I'm just,
Yeah.
but I keep running into this guy, right? So crazy.
Again, back to early questions, mentors and stuff. I've been really fortunate. I'll slide over this way a little bit. A 25, 28-year-old picture of my girlfriend. This one is Jim Lovell, the Apollo 13.
Oh, dang.
That was a Honeywell meeting. There's a lot of others here. Like I said, I've been fortunate. Since Eric is hopefully watching this one, and P-Todd, he's a
Nice.
good me. Um, so
Troll Trends
I
Award people, if you're trying to follow along at
exactly.
home. Yeah.
But I have been fortunate to get some of those. I've got a 1980 hockey goalie signed jersey because that was like the Jim Lovell piece. We had a select group, it was called President's Club, that got to go meet him and stuff like that. So those were some fun times that we've had within the business.
Really cool. All right. So you travel personally, professionally, a good bit. Give us give us one or two. Do you have a favorite scene that you've seen, like just the most beautiful city or country? And the follow-up question is, what's your recommendation for best city to adventure based on whatever the Witherspoons think is a fun adventure and things to see?
Those are two interesting questions, and I want to turn that on you too because I know you do a little bit of travel.
Okay, I'm gonna start thinking then. All right.
It's actually funny. Last night I had to go into the India government and do my e-visa. I've got a trip coming up to Delhi, Bangalore, and around, and it said list all the countries you've been in the past 10 years. So I had to go grab a couple passport books and start figuring out where have I been in the past 10 years. It really depends on what you enjoy. I can tell you Southeast Asia has some beautiful areas. They all have good and bad food. It just depends on what you get.
Yeah.
I will tell you when you travel to foreign places, if you are a meat and potatoes kind of person, don't ask what you're eating, just eat it because you probably don't want to know.
Good advice.
Um, you know, always start with the dessert, always start with, and that way I'll take a negative view. That way, if something happens during dinner, you at least had the dessert,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
talk about that. I enjoy Europe. I really do. Not necessarily the commercialized versions of Europe, right? London, Paris, they are what they are. They're great tourist cities. I enjoy getting out, and when I go hit Javisier, Roll, Switzerland, those areas there where we
Hmm.
have offices. I enjoy the Nordics region.
Okay.
Seeing customers up there, it's actually really interesting to get out and drive and just go see, up in Norway and all around. They've got windmills forever kind of things, right? The Netherlands is always fun. Obviously do the touristy thing and
Right.
hit the windmills, hit the cheese, hit the wooden shoemakers, but just sit and relax. The
Yeah.
one thing that I enjoy, no matter where I am in the globe, is people watching.
Yeah.
Drives my family nuts, but then we turn it into a game. We'll see a couple talking, and we will start figuring out what are they saying. So and the kids will come up with some of the craziest things in the world. Okay, yeah, I can't say that because that'd be a censored thing. But you just start laughing. Why did your brain go
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Those are the types of things. Where do the Witherspoons say go for an adventure? Depends on what you want to do. Do you want to go to Denver and out in the mountains and go hiking and have a good time? Do you want to go skiing in Banff? Or do you want to go sit on a beach and literally do nothing? Listen to the ocean roll in. And when we literally first started dating, she's like, your family goes to the beach every year. Why? And after 28 years, the woman would live at the beach. She's like, when are we going? I got to go. I need to de-stress.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I remember Myrtle Beach 40, 50 years ago. Now it's commercialized. I'll go to Myrtle on the shoulder seasons. I don't like to go there in the summer. It's just too busy. I'll hit another less commercialized beach up in the Carolinas, Sunset Beach, things like that, because I don't need 5 million of my non-closest friends sitting right next to me smoking and drinking when I'm there to chill out.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But that to me, here in that ocean, that's when I can actually fall asleep under an umbrella. No drink. I can have a
Yeah.
drink, but no
Yeah.
drink. And I'm just out.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta make sure you take time to chill out, regroup, recoup, you know?
Yeah.
The
What about you? Because
well the
you and your girlfriend have
Allen's
done a bit of trading.
yeah, we love to travel and we we do vacations or adventures, right? So vacations you're going to end up somewhere and you get up when you get up and you go to sleep and you go to sleep and it's just sort of but we very rarely are you going to find us in any kind of tourist anything, right? Unless it's like a, you know, you
I
got
can't
to
see
pick
her in
your
a forest anything.
no, we want to figure our way out, find our way, you know, ask the locals where the best spots to eat are, like, you know, that type of thing. And if we have to eat at 5 o'clock and then again at midnight, because that's whatever, like we'll do that. Like it's just like we just love to figure that kind of thing out. But so I think you know, you were just kind of saying like there's some check the box places that you want to see. You want to see the Coliseum. You want to see the Eiffel Tower. You want to see Big Ben. You want to see some of the things to be able to say, yeah, you know, I saw that. The Great Wall of China. If you can see that, I did that. Funny, oh, not so much in Beijing because we Beijing took a bullet train out to Xi'an and then the Terracotta Warriors and then got into the whatever. Um, Let me just tell you that when you get out into the country of China a little bit, a 6'1" person that had a much bigger beard is very interesting to the local Chinese people. And I've never felt like being traveled around by paparazzi ever in my life. And we've got a handful of pictures where we were taking pictures of people taking pictures of me, which was like really funny. You know, it's like, what, you know, what the heck is going on, right? But so as far as like picturesque, I don't know if you ever been to Santorini, Greece or Positano, though. Like
Yes.
Santorini is just it's hard to we stayed outside of Ia and so it wasn't as crowded as you get sometimes. And I mean you can just sit there and look out into that space and just you can't make sure you just your
The
brain
beauty
doesn't
of
make it.
the ocean, the rocks,
Yeah,
especially towards Santorini with the blue roofs and stuff. But you're right. There's also away from there are some beautiful little towns
right.
that actually aren't as touristy. So
Yeah,
make a point and go. And I'll show you something
yeah.
that my kid got me for Christmas this year. Earbud set. Okay.
Okay.
Have you seen the AI translators? This
Heard.
sucker
I've haven't s-
130 different languages, and I can hand you one, or I can use both, and it instantly If you're speaking Spanish and I need English, if you're speaking Hindi and I need English, you just select where are you? Here's the language, and it starts going.
Wow.
It
Wow.
is get that. Don't be afraid to travel at the same time, though. Who cares? You don't speak their language. A lot of times, if you go to the touristy areas, they will absolutely accommodate you in English because they want your
Yep.
dollar.
I feel it's that way. The only place we ever had a hard time was in China. There was a whole lot of pointing at things, and you'd find the one person and you'd tell them to please write this down so you could hand it to someone and say, you had to get me back to my hotel. But every place else was good. But we if you said you could only go to one European country for the rest of your life, we would pick Italy. There's just something special about Italy. And
Now, which part?
Flor
Which part?
well, it's if you never ever ever go to Rome, you're going to always wonder what Rome is like. But once you go to Rome one time, you're probably going to go, that's cool. Maybe
Did
I'll
it?
add a day in Rome and add a day at the end of my trip, flying in and out of Rome. But if you made me pick, it would be a really, really tough choice between Florence, Italy, or Syracuse, Sicily. Would be the two places. It's just like Florence is a big city, but it's sort of a laid back kind of big city, right? And then Sicily, like Taormina, is just really cool, but Syracuse is just beautiful. And so, yeah, that's those would be my picks.
It's interesting also for expats and people going over, to live. To your point of where would I live? People think Switzerland is it's beautiful. It really is. But what they forget about is all the cantons, which is basically like their states, and the tax laws change so drastically there. And then to keep what they have put such tight regulation on beef and things like that. My first trip in many years was a couple of years back to our Javisier and Roll office. It was probably 2.5, 3 years ago. And I'll never forget my manager at the time was traveling with me. And we got there, we went for lunch. And literally this cheeseburger, nothing special, it'd be like a cheeseburger. It had lettuce and tomato. And a set of fries was like 26.50 euro. And I'm like, holy crap, this is going to be an
Right.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a similar thing at Starbucks in Zurich. And, a coffee and a muffin was something like, I mean, 10, 12 years ago, that was a coffee and a muffin, I think was like $20 a person. We were like, what? So yeah, it's wild, man. But it's neat. Those things. I've also been to Cuba where they give you uh, appetizer, meal, dessert, some cervezas, and they ask you for two people for $9, and you're like, wait a minute, right? So I mean, it all balances out. Now I don't know what I was eating, to your point,
Well,
but
and you look at that and you're like, okay. And there are places in Europe like that as well, Prague and places that are not expensive. And you're like, you're literally sitting here going, okay, I convert to, okay, that's $3.
yeah,
That'd be
you're
like
like, no way.
$18. Yeah. Those are the fun. I make a point because you talked about exercise earlier, right? No matter where I'm traveling, unless it's just not safe, I get out and walk. When we flew in 2 years ago when I went to China and was there for 3 weeks, when we landed, the guy that was traveling with me, I said, okay, go change into workout clothes. We're going to walk. What do you mean? I said, you have to walk to get adjusted into this time zone, and then we're going to eat a light dinner and we're going to crash at normal time. Well, that'd be like when I'm getting up, and it's like get yourself on the time zone and just walking, seeing. I mean, you've seen my Facebook post. I'll get out if I have time for it. I'll get 10 miles in and have 20, 30 pictures along the way of flowers
Yeah,
and buildings and
yeah,
my oldest is an architect, is finishing her master's in architecture and has her sustainable cities certification, is LEED certified. So it's like, let me get some pictures of this for her. She'd really enjoy this, right? So it's
yeah,
making time to do that even when you're on work travel.
yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, hi. You got me talking travel. I could do this all day long. I don't know if we're fascinating people, boring people, or all parts in between. Um, this was so much fun. I'm so glad that you came on and did this. I'm sure people have got some great takeaways, and people have some, better understanding of you, which is the point of this podcast for me. Is we're a big industry, but we're really a small industry, right? Everybody seems to kind of know everybody, and it's really cool. If you don't have anything else, man, let's call it a wrap. I just think that this was great. We covered it all. What say you?
Well, I am honored to have been the first non-Stromquist guest outside of the family, so thank you.
You're very welcome.
I've had a lot of fun with this. This is a different type of podcast, and it is, as you started off, it is probably the easiest conversation I'll have today, other than my wife whenever she calls me tonight from her hotel in Memphis tonight. So
Yeah.
these are the fun ones, and it's why we do what we do. It's the friendships, it's the relationships, and you are spot on. It is a small industry. I, I have competition in this industry, but I also have a whole lot of friends that work at those competitors. So we're
Yep.
co-opetition, right? It's
Right.
about, to your point of asking what's next in the industry. We're all looking at that, trying to figure out that next piece. But if there's something stumping us, we all come together and talk about it as well. So that's the joy of this industry, is that there are some really good people that will mentor and help no matter where they are in relation to, if you're competition, if you work in the same company, if they're just a friend, take it,
Yep.
run with it. But thank you again.
So you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you. And the last thing, you're spot on. Some of our best competitors, I also can't wait to see them when I run into them to go catch up and do whatever. So good stuff. All right, Spoon. Appreciate you as always, sir. Thanks for all that you do for us. And that's it on the bucket with David Witherspoon from Honeywell. See ya.